Alright, what is up? Welcome back to the video. So today I want to talk about budgeting and how to create a budget that actually works. And especially if you're a beginner, make sure to stick to the end of this video because I'm going to give you practical tips how to budget your finances and how to level up your personal finance skills. Learning to create a solid budget is a great way to manage your personal finance because that way you don't end up spending as much money and you are much more wise in terms of how you spend your money. In general, because of budgeting, it's much easier to make smart financial decisions. Tip number 1. Determine your income and expenses. So this is very important. So if you know your exact income and you know your expenses, it's much easier to create a solid budget. As a result, you end up spending only a limited amount of money and it's easier for you to grow your finances. Knowing your income and expenses will make it easier for you to understand how much you spend and how much you actually can spend because of the level of your income. An easy way to make sure you spend only a limited amount is by using Excel and track down how much you spend every month. That's very important when it comes to creating a budget. What I usually do is I open up Excel and I write down how much I made this month or my income in general, and then I write down all the expenses I had. And that shows me how much money I have left. Then ask yourself one question: was all of this spending necessary? Or did it include a lot of costs that actually were not necessary? So you could have actually saved them, for example. Tip number 2, categorize your expenses. So divide them into wants and needs. So needs are your essential costs, things you have to actually pay for and things you have to buy, such as your rent and groceries. Your wants are something you can limit spending on. So if you want, for example, a new phone, new headphones, new car, whatever it is, make sure you think about before making the purchase. And you're not budgeting, it's kinda easy to go and spend all the money you have on things that you actually don't need really at that point. By categorizing your expenses into wants and needs, it's much easier to actually realize and visually understand how much you spend on your actual needs. If you do this in Excel, it's going to be much easier to understand how much you spend. Excel will quickly calculate you the right amount of essential costs. So that's how you actually get to know how much you spend on essential things. And as a result, that will show you actually how much you spend money on your wants. And you can actually make adjustments in terms of how much you will spend on them in the future. Tip number 3, adjust and review monthly. Sometimes your income may be a bit different every month, right? And then you have to adjust your budget as well. So for example, let's say your income was $2,000 last month and now you got, for example, $2,300. So you can spend a bit more, or you can change your budget a bit, so it becomes much more easier to manage your finances actually. And you can decide yourself whether you want to, for example, save a bit more money or invest it in the stock market or actually spend it on your wants. But make sure you decide smartly. So if you want to grow your finances, make sure to save and invest your money. By adjusting your budget and reviewing your monthly expenses, it's much more easier to actually understand your finances, how they work and how you spend money. Like I said, take advantage of Excel, write down your income, your expenses, see how much you spend, and also write down how much you save and invest, because then you can see how much you're saving, for example, every month and investing every month. Alright, tip number 4, 50-30-20 rule. I use this sometimes, so in my opinion it works really well and I really recommend taking advantage of that. And now let me explain what I mean by that. So what I mean by this rule is 50% of your income goes to your essential costs, your rent, groceries, car payment, whatever it is. 30% goes to your savings and investments. That's how I do it. I think it's still important to save and invest quite a big amount of your money because that way you prioritize your financial growth and it's easier to actually take care of your personal finance as well. And the last 20% is spent on your wants. When you only spend 20% on your wants, you're not gonna spend more than that, which is quite obvious, but it's really effective and powerful in terms of growing your finances. So that's why I really recommend spending on your wants as little as possible, so you don't end up spending all of your income on things that actually are not even that worth it at the end of the day. Some people do this in a bit different way, so they might use 50-40-10 rule, and they, for example, spend only 10% on their wants, and they save and invest 40%. The 50% remains same, so groceries, rent, your loans. You can try different ways of this and see what works best for you, but I highly recommend you try this because it can really change the way you look at your finances. If you don't think about this rule on a bit deeper level, you might actually realize that you're living based on this rule but you're spending it in a bit different way. So for example, you still spend 50% on your rent and groceries, loans, car, whatever it is, but actually you spend 40% on your wants and you only save 10%, and that's not ideal if you want to grow your finances, and that's not the right way of budgeting. So that's why creating a budget before spending is very important. But in general, budgeting requires a bit of a skill and experience to actually learn and see how you manage your finances. When you keep track of your income and expenses, it's much easier for you to also stay on your budget and stick to it. Creating budget is a great way to manage your finances as well. And when you're budgeting, keep your financial goals in mind, because that will help you to enhance your budget in a way that you actually prioritize your financial goals. So for example, you save more in order to go on an expensive trip, or you save more to buy a house, whatever it is. Keep your financial goals in mind. That's all I got about budgeting today. So if you like this video, hit the thumbs up, subscribe for more. Make sure to share this with other people. And if you'd like to see more this type of content, make sure to watch this video next. It is my most recent upload. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.